Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
Hi, everybody. I'm spiritual medium Kelly White, and we are here with John Williams. Hi, John.
Ta-da-da.
Hello,
Our
ladies.
wonderful John that saves our behind every single Monday. Every
Oh,
single
you
day,
do the same
actually.
for me. So,
Actually, every day for me. And I don't know how he does it, but every time I swear I don't call him and say, "Oh, John, I'm going to wear pink today." I don't do that. In fact, at the last minute I change and kaboom.
And there it is. I know. And even
Every
my
time.
color, where is it?
yep.
Opposite side, right here. The
Yellow,
orangey.
gold, or orangey.
It's
Yeah. I
so
know your color.
funny. It's like
Yeah.
we're all connected. But of course, Kelly, you would know that. My left brain, has
We
a little
are
freak
all
attack every time, but you know it. And John, you know it too.
No, I'm still laughing about last week when you asked me twice about how the Neo-Wise, the comet, got its name. I'm still laughing about that. When I need a good chuckle, I'm like,
I was on a roll that wasn't a good one last week.
you were on a roll.
My
For
mind
sure.
was like, I don't know, orbiting Pluto, I think.
I mean, oh my God. Guess what I did today?
What?
I had a manicure and a pedicure.
Oh, how did you do that?
I'm going to tell you. Somebody came to my house and we sat outside wearing masks, and it was a beautiful. I'm like, thank you, God. Somebody cooperated. The weather was fabulous. And I had my iced tea, and it was just the greatest experience
lovely.
of my life. Things that I would have never said before, but I haven't had one. I actually was looking the last time I had anything like that. Do you know how I know? I went through one of my purses, and in this purse, I found a speeding ticket.
That's the last time you were out in your car?
Driving? Yes, actually, yes. I was in Chicago. I had just done the Jen Weigel show, and I had had dinner with David Vigiano. And after that, I left, and I don't even think I told him. So, David, if you're watching, I got pulled over. But that's the day I had a manicure. And so it was like at the end of February, like February 24th or 5th or something like that. So I remember that. That's how long it's been.
It's so funny because somebody mentioned once we take things for granted. I don't think we did. We just never had to stop life in the way that we knew it. So I don't think we took things for granted. I think we just didn't realize how these little things, what they meant to us.
Yeah.
It feels so refreshing, like to have your hair color done or your nails done and just grooming things feel so
makes
refreshing.
You feel human.
Yeah.
And I know our guest tonight, her book is something with a similar title.
Yes.
But it really is.
Yeah.
Well,
it does. It does. It's all if all the different parts that help us feel human, or at least are in our, are things that we're used to doing, and putting a stop to that, I think, brings up how those things feel when maybe in the moment we don't, because we do it so often.
Yeah. So anyway, I was really happy.
That's wonderful.
So I feel good. So let's talk about the astrology.
Yes, or as I like to call it, the CF.
The CF.
I know. It's
for those of you that don't know what that means. I mean the clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's
2020 has been one big one.
Oh, it's just headed,
and it continues
headed south. Oh. So anyway, I thought I'm just going to do a little bit for this week. So
does sage grow on trees?
Do what?
Does sage grow on trees? I'm just curious, because if so, we need to light the whole tree.
Like all the sage trees around. I don't know, or is it a bush?
It's a bush.
I think it's a bush, but I'm just saying we need a huge tree at this point.
Yeah, we do.
Oh my gosh, that is the truth.
Yeah.
My gosh. Well, today we were talking before the show. There was a harmonious aspect to the beginning of the day, and then it just went kablooey. But there was a sextile, Jupiter and Neptune sextile, which means they're about 60 degrees apart. And Jupiter and Neptune are actually friends, even though they're retrograde. They're friends. And it really means this during this period for the week, and during this period as we go day by day by day, it really steps in with who are we? Who are we? Who is our, let's use our inner wisdom here. It's all about inner wisdom. And it really means to really pay attention to your own guidance. So these two harmonious aspects really mean to really learn about yourself, be friends with yourself, learn, your inner wisdom, bring out your inner wisdom. Because later, then what happened today, Venus was squares Neptune. This means over emotional, a lot of emotions, relationships, insecurity, very difficult aspect of the day and of the week as we go into this week. So I want you to pay attention to your own inner wisdom. Try not to blow up. It has a lot to do with business and business partners. Here's another thing that we have to watch this week. Mercury, which is in Cancer, and Mars, which is in Aries. There are a lot of challenges. They square each other this week. So this is going to bring impatience. And it's going to be intense because the moon's in Scorpio. It's going to be intense. You're going to feel like you're triggered. So again, go to your inner guidance. Inner guidance. Think like that. And then on Tuesday, tomorrow, Sun is in Leo and it squares Neptune in Pisces. This is a push and a pull, a push and a pull. So we've got not an easy week is what I'm saying here. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not an easy week. Who was that? Was that Herman, my old grandson?
Yes, it was. And I apologize.
Hi, Herman.
Put myself on mute.
When we need her.
Put myself on mute.
That was pretty funny. Anyway, so I think what's going to happen this week is everybody, I want you to watch your temper. I want everybody watch their temper.
This is funny.
And this is not an easy place to be. John, I was just researching where to get sage locally. Oh, that's really funny.
Need a lot of it.
You're going to need a lot of it. Yeah, just try to keep a calm, level head if you can,
So does that mean that the energy of the planets will cause you to have less patience or have flare up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You would.
Mars rules.
Mars is, it's direct. It's in its own house of Aries. Aries is war, and it's its own. It's just going down like this.
Yeah, Mars is aggression, anger.
It's aggression, and it's headed in a direction for the next few months. It goes retrograde, I think it's September 9th. That's going to be very rough, very rough. And every degree that it gets to makes it more intense because it starts to square off with different planets. Squaring off is a fight, basically, like to square off with somebody, if you think about it. And it's going to be a very intense few months as we get into it.
Wow.
It's just starting.
Well,
it's just
sound
starting.
Promising at all.
No, it's not. So again, inner guidance, inner peace, Zen,
breathing. So it's so wonderful that we have our guest tonight, which I will. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm
to
good.
warn us about? Okay, then I'll transition beautifully with this. Right, Duck, protect, shield
under your desk.
Because it's exactly what she's coming to talk about. She's a wonderful new book. It's Betsy Polatin. She is an internationally recognized breathing movement specialist and best-selling author. She's been teaching for 45 years, and her unique and intuitive perspectives are greatly influenced by the study of movement, breath, and trauma, as well as the teachings of spiritual and meditation masters. I mean, she's the perfect combination of everything that we talk about. She speaks at conferences around the world, a well-known educator, and has had numerous articles published in the Huffington Post, and is the author of The Actor's Secret. And she has just come out with her new book, Humanual, which is a wonderful book that ties everything about body posture and how that can relate to unhealed trauma and everything else, and how we communicate through the body. So she's here to share with us about her new book and everything else. So welcome, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
Yay.
Hi, everybody.
So happy that you're here. I'll give them a very brief thing. You and I met because we assisted with Peter Levine.
Yes.
And we met and fell in love, and you're just so wonderful. And every time you're in LA, we get together, and it's just...
And we just go, blah, 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 blah.
We do. It's just always been such a pleasure to hang out with you.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, so fun.
Tell us about this wonderful new book. Maybe give us a little bit of history about you, because you're an acting teacher, acting coach. right? Is one of the many things that you do.
I work with actors.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the acting thing has such multi-facets for me because my second book is called The Actor's Secret. And yet I use the word actor in the Shakespearean sense because all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. We are all actors. And we are all playing roles. And so, you know, if I want to change my role, it's not so easy to change my role, you know? So I work with actors, but I work a lot with musicians. I actually started more with musicians, and even before that, I worked with dancers. I worked with people in movement because I was a dancer when I was younger. Yeah, you know, for me, movement was like the thing that was the most interesting to me. I didn't particularly want to open my mouth. I just was happy to just move.
Yeah.
And I have this body that people like to see move, so it was that worked for me. Yeah.
And so how did you get into studying, because I know you've studied with Peter Levine for many, many years, and into the tie-in of trauma and body?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. From my dance background, I became an Alexander technique teacher. I was interested in, you know, basically how to move and what to do to make your body, yourself, you know, function well. You know, that was always interesting to me. What could make me feel better, basically. And so I was working with the Alexander technique, and I worked at Berklee College of Music with jazz musicians for, you know, 25 years. And because I love music, I've always been around music. I think that's one of Shirley and I, you know,
what we connect with. Well, Kelly's father was a jazz musician. Very well known one.
And they're very different, aren't they? Jazz musicians.
Yes, I worked with them for quite a few years, and I loved my work with that kind of, especially love the piano players somehow. But I worked with all different jazz musicians. And so I was using the Alexander technique, which is well known for working with musicians. And I was getting people to have more of what they wanted, but it seemed that something was still missing. Like somebody would have a back pain, and some people with back pain, they'd have a couple of lessons and then they'd be playing again and they'd be all on their way, and other people weren't. So I began to be interested in I worked with a lot of singers also at Berklee. And I began to see that how the voice came out was limited or stopped or not connected with who they were. So I began to look into breathing. That became like really interesting to me, like how there's so many opinions on breathing. Like everybody's got to breathe into your stomach, breathe into your chest, breathe into your back, breathe, you know. And I thought, I got to sort this out. I got to know what it really, the mechanism is. So I found this man in New York City named Carl Stough, Stough. And he answered all my questions in a way that I thought were just right. He actually brought people back from emphysema with his breathing, which if anybody knows that, it's like there's no medical cure for it. Once you have it, it's like they sort of manage with drugs and things to keep you alive, but nobody returns from it. And Carl was able to bring people back. So I studied with him for quite a few years and used that because I was teaching at the Opera Institute with opera singers. And so the combination of the Alexander work and the breathing work was like, whoa, this is moving now. And after a while, it was like, still something wasn't, it was like, why did somebody come in and say, I'm always tightening my right hand, you know, and I don't know, you know, and you could sort of make it go away in the moment, but it always wanted to do that. And it was like, why is that? Or the back pain, why didn't it go away? Why does it? And when I read, you know, it was 20 years ago, I read Waking the Tiger, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is like, and I teach with Peter Levine. So I say this in front of him when I teach. I was not a trauma person. I was not interested in trauma at all. It was like not my thing. But once I saw it in this way, that the physicality and something was not moving through the physicality and connected to the, you know, the breathing and the movement, it was like, wow, this is amazing for me.
Seemed like it answered that question that you had as to what was that piece.
Exactly.
Maybe you can share with us that piece in your book where you talk about kids and how you see the difference in the body and how that starts to then add up.
Right. Should we actually take it from the actual book here, or?
Well, the part about, you know, when a child, how it starts to, how it starts to kind of settle in, how trauma starts to settle in the body.
Right. Why don't I just read these 2 paragraphs, and that will.
Sure.
A child's view of the world is egocentric. Children are the center of the universe. If good stuff happens, they think, I must be good. And that little face just beams with joy at their success. Breath is full, while confidence and poise develop and emanate from their little bodies and souls. However, if bad stuff happens, they think, it must be my fault, and their little body collapses in and breathing becomes shallow. And it goes on to that shallow breathing and collapse can turn into the shame posture. But it's so, I mean, when I say it like that or read it like that, it's so clear. We can all picture, you know, either ourselves or our children or a little kid that we know, like, look, hi, that, oh, it's so, yummy.
Yeah.
And when we see the other, that collapse and the shame and something, you know, you can just feel it so deep inside. And I think that it's really the root, you know, early stuff is the root for all of us. Like what's happening today for me, it's not about it's not that. It's that little self that had to do that.
Yeah, because then when you add experiences over and over and over again, it builds on itself. It doesn't just dissipate unless you have a parent that, you know, knows enough to know how to get a child to complete that shame or that, you know, so then it just has to, so it just completes and it's done and it doesn't add on to itself.
Yes. And the thing that completion, I think, would look like, you know, something happens if the child does something that, you know, like if you were in the kitchen with the child and they reached for a knife and you screamed across the room, don't touch that, you know, something like that. And the child is petrified and then, oh, I did something wrong. But if you go to the child and then, you know, say, you know, honey, that's really dangerous and you can't do, you know what I mean? And you repair.
Right. I love you.
I love you. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And that way the child can learn through the shame, the healthy shame, but not have that awful like feeling of, you know, I'm really not a good person. I'm bad, you know.
Right. Liz Perez just made a comment and she said she sees this with foster children. Have you worked in that population, or do you know, have much information about that population?
Not as a specific population, but you know, I'm full-time faculty at Boston University for 20 years. So many students come through my teaching room. And so I have experience, you know, here and there, but I would not say that I, you know, specialize in that. But I can only imagine the the pain and the difficulty. But, with all these things, there's pain and there's difficulty, and I'm not minimizing it at all. But I think the good news is that today we have ways of recognizing it.
And working with it. I mean, I watched you work with Peter in the actors workshop that you do, where they would come in and they would deliver their lines, if that's what they were doing. I think you had them all prepare like a monologue or something, and they would do it. And then you would notice their body posture, and you would just simply put your hand somewhere or whatever, and then work with them just a little bit. And then they would redeliver the lines, and it was a completely different performance. It was unbelievable to watch.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't take much. But the thing is that we all have these adaptive patterns that turn into our habitual patterns.
Yeah.
And we don't notice. I don't notice my own. I might, because it's like I'm obsessed with it. But most of us don't recognize our own habitual patterns. And
very true.
when you can have another set of eyes or ears or something, just like say, somebody will stand like that, and I'll say, are you standing up straight? Yeah, I'm standing up straight, and then you take them to here, they say, oh, I'm really off balance, and they're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you have one shoulder up. No, I don't.
Right.
What did you do to my shoulder? Why does it feel so weird now?
Right.
Because our sensory experience sets in, and it's very powerful. And tie that with the adaptive pattern. You did it. You stood over here because something wasn't great over here that you wanted to get away from. So it's powerful.
Right.
So Gina says, wow, can you show us a technique? I have a presentation tomorrow at work and would love to know how to be more confident and expressive.
Sure. Let me just think which one.
Well, what would be an example of, helping people?
Confidence.
Yeah, maybe more embody that, because I know in the book you say when people, are walking with bad posture, and you say stand up straight, and that is just as bad as the other because it's not natural. The body isn't doing that naturally.
It's true. Is it okay to do something standing?
Oh, sure.
The two of you, if you don't have to stand if you don't want to, if you're hooked into your thing, but I'm not hooked in. I'm going to stand.
Okay.
And, Gina, you can join me, and anybody else who wants to join. And everybody who doesn't want to stand and wants to sit, you can kind of do a version of it sitting, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to stand up, and I've got a mirror here. So I'm going to see if you can.
Yeah, we can see you.
And I'll go in solo on you too.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we are. Okay. So as you're standing, just notice, Gina, do you tend to stand on the front of your feet, or the back, or your heels? Do you tend to sort of lean into your toes, or do you have more weight on your heels? No right or wrong, nothing is good or bad. It's just what we just happen to do. Just kind of notice. We're not going to deal with side to side now because that's just a little bit different. So front to back, just noticing, is there more weight on the front of my feet or more weight on the back? Okay, I assume, Gina, you have an answer by now. It doesn't take much.
Back. She's saying the back, yes.
Okay, good. Now, I want you to explore and arrive at some kind of even contact between the front of your foot and the back. So you'll kind of go back and forth. It takes a couple of minutes to explore. It'll feel a little funny and different and not sure, but keep searching, and at some point, your system will tell you that I have as much pressure on the front of my foot as I do on the back. So play around with that. Just see what you come up with. And if you're sitting, you can do it with your sitting bones.
She says, wow, okay, felt a little wobbly.
Exactly. That's perfect, because there is no, when you arrive at that place, it's not like a static spot. It's got a little wobble to it. That's because the earth has a wobble to it. The planet has a 23-degree wobble to it. Kelly will back me up on that. And so notice what it's like to have your even contact and have that place where you've got the even contact and that little wobble, and just see how that affects the rest of your legs, how that affects your torso, your shoulders, your head, how it comes up through you. How it comes, because, we live on the planet and we have the gravitational force coming toward the planet, but we also have the planet is spinning, gives off a centrifugal force, which rises up underneath us on the planet. So the gravity and anti-gravity, we meet the ground. And so we want to allow that support to come up through you. And that can give you a kind of support that's usually pretty different from what we normally do.
And she says, feeling some blood flow tingling in the feet.
Yes, let that come up through your legs, through your ankles, your knees. And
now, is there any particular hand posture or any type of body language that she should be using to express the assertiveness or confidence?
I would say let your arms be supported from the ground, and then let them speak what you have to say.
Okay.
Usually the problem with it is we sort of hold them tight or not do anything with them. But if you just allow them to fall, oh, and then yes, I'm going here, but right now I'm taking that from the ground. I'm taking the information from the ground, combining it with me, which is my talk or Gina's talk, what you're talking about. It meets and mixes inside and then comes out to your people. This is what I have to say. And then this happened. And you allow yourself to fill the space because you have the support from the ground. Without the support, you're like, like that.
Wow, we even have Wendy who's trying this with a broken toe, and she was able to do it. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Your toe
yeah.
might heal faster.
All right. Thank you, Betsy.
Wow, Betsy, that's wonderful.
That's incredible.
It really is speaking and kind of just letting it happen naturally. And so when she was asking about what kind of hand movements, or I think, John, you were asking that, the hand movements will just, or arm will happen naturally because you're completely connected. It's almost like being in the flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that happened. That's what you see when you see, thank you, Gina. When you see a talented performer, any, a musician, a rock music, there's no, it just happens. They move, and then this comes and that, it's from within. But it's an important piece that I mentioned, the connection to the ground. A lot of people miss that.
It's such a huge piece that would make the difference without being able to maybe describe it. You probably would be able to, Betsy, but why some people are more interesting to watch when they're talking, or even actors, and why some aren't, because and I wouldn't be able to say why, but that flow, even the way you were showing it, is was just so interesting. And then when you showed how if your arms are tight, and not in the flow, then it would look awkward, and the mirror neurons, then I would start to feel uncomfortable because they're feeling uncomfortable, and right?
That's exactly how it goes. Exactly how it goes. And like you said, you don't really know, but you know that you're either bored with the performance or not so interested, or you know, because they say the sort of they, that I forget the percentage, but that when you watch somebody speak, that you like the content is like this much, but what they're emanating and their physicality is this much, you know, that's what you're taking in.
Well, I think what you're teaching, Betsy, is how to communicate with all of you.
Right.
You know, with how to be so connected within yourself that you're using your body to communicate, your voice, I mean, everything, and not just the words that are coming out. That's just a very small part.
Right.
It's an awareness of all of that happens.
It's
I became
true.
very aware while I was watching you. I got, you know, really in the body and aware.
Yes, and when you become aware of your body, or you know, I don't always use the word body by itself, because it's, to me, it's like body, mind, spirit is like it's one blur for me. But something happens called interoception, which allows the information from inside to come up to a certain part of your brain. And that part of your brain, the insula and cingulate, they get to down-regulate the amygdala, or the, you know, the fear stuff. So as soon as you even pay attention to yourself, something different happens.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, the last chapters in the book are, you know, for spirituality, that the way out of the body is through the body. Because I've spent time in spiritual communities, and I used to drive me nuts, but I would hear, oh, the body doesn't matter, you know, forget the body, it doesn't matter, the body doesn't count, you know, it's about the spirit. And it's like, for me, it's like, no, like it's through the physicality and the connection of the body, mind, spirit, then you're free to go. Because, you know, in meditation, people would say the body doesn't count, and then say to me, oh, my back is hurting, could you help me, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I love how, you know, in your book, you talk about that, you know, I mean, the reason why you wrote the book, it seems like, is to help find your something inside that guides you.
Exactly.
Book, to help you connect deeply and consciously to your body, mind, soul, and spirit. And I'm reading this straight from your book. Then you will know what to do to discover and develop your sense of knowing and feeling your something inside. This is the path to your expanded self, which is about accessing more of your full potential. It's just such a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you got to you know, to write the book. I know it's everything that you've learned through the years, and just wanted to help people with such valuable information, really.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I started writing it about 15 years ago. And I was, you know, putting it all together and and I showed it to my daughter, and my daughter's a writer. And she said, Mom, this is like a way too big a project. Why don't you start with something simple? You teach actors at school, just write about what you teach the actors at school. Write about the acting that you teach. That'll be simple, and then you'll be able to write the other one later. Well, The Actor's Secret was not simple to write. I don't think books are simple to write.
No, they're not.
You know, no matter how you do it, unless it's, well, I won't judge, but to really get something down and say it the way you really mean it takes some skill or effort.
Yeah.
I don't think it's skill. It's just to go, no, that's not what I mean. Yes.
It's discipline and effort. Absolutely.
Focus.
Yeah.
So I did The Actor's Secret, and, you know, it came out and everything. And then as soon as that was out, I thought, you know, I went back to, I got to work on Humanual, and I it's been, another, I don't know, 8-9 years that just keep going back to it, and then it's just so interesting. It was ready for publication just around the time when COVID started.
Wow.
Which is so perfect. I mean, we've always talked about with Kelly how COVID is really causing people to go deep because there's nothing else to do. After you've watched your whole Netflix series and all that stuff, there's nothing else to do. And people are going really deep in their sessions that we've always talked about with Kelly in the sessions that we have with them. And they, and this is a beautiful book to help, kind of with that journey.
Yeah. And I think, each of us has our own path and journey, to follow. And so how much am I willing to explore myself, go into the depth of myself, or into that some of that early stuff, really connect it to, this is when I was younger and I had to go for the attachment and leave my own authenticity. And now the interesting thing about that, either true self or authenticity, whatever we want to call it, my experience is it doesn't go away. It doesn't stop saying, listen to me, I want to say something. It like keeps, it'd be easier if it's just like, okay, I'll just be a couch potato.
Right.
But especially like you say, when we don't have all those other distractions to busy ourselves with, then, and as Kelly's saying also, that the planets just happen to be doing
this is a time to go deeply inward. Do you have any tips for people that are home, and have anxiety with COVID? I run into a lot of that. Do you, Shirley, probably daily with your people? They're afraid of this, afraid of that, and how to help with fear.
Right. Why don't we do a little breathing practice?
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
That can help. Yeah. So now that I mentioned the word breathing, and usually what we first notice with that is the lack thereof. We're all sort of often holding our breath one way or another.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, the breath is a great way to hold down whatever you don't want to feel.
Say a little bit more about that.
Well, if I'm out at a restaurant with a friend, and the friend says something hurtful to me, and I sort of feel like I'm welling up with tears, or maybe not a friend, maybe a more intimate relationship or something. Maybe a friend wouldn't do that, but and I feel the tears well up. But I'm in a public place. I don't really want to cry. If I to hunker down my breath, I won't cry, but I'm also holding down my breath.
Right.
And that's, every once in a while, we all do it because it's like we're in a conversation, somebody says something, it's like, what? But it's like, you just sort of take it back inside. It's your breath that holds that back in.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you, like I said, once in a while, not a problem. But if you continue that, then you get this holding and tightness in your shoulders and in your ribs. And it can turn into not great stuff. And then relating it to the singers that I work with. So here I am just with that scenario that I just explained, that I'm just kind of got a tightness in here that I don't want to breathe. And then I go to my singing teacher, and my singing teacher says, okay, let your ribs move for your breathing, let your chest expand. And I'm like, I can't do that because I'm busy holding my chest in to hold me in.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what am I going to do here?
And so what would be a technique to help you to help with the breathing?
To do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I got off on a tangent there. Okay. So just notice your breathing right now. And our breathing is a response. Breathing's not an activity. It's a response. It's a response to your environment, your outer environment and your inner environment.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
It is. And then notice also that as you start to breathe, as you bring your attention to your breath, there's going to be some sort of like, oh, I should have a longer inhale or I should have a longer exhale. You're going to sort of want to start to control it because we like to be controlling things. So what if in this moment you didn't control your breath? What if you just allowed the air to come in and allowed the air to go out and just sort of see what happens with that? Instead of forcing a larger inhale or a larger exhale, whichever. Just stay with your breath and just notice. And then begin to notice the movement. Where moves when you breathe? Where is there movement? Yeah. And you might notice a little stretching, or there might be, the expansion and contraction.
I was going to say in my heart, I could feel it.
Exactly. Because when there's less breath, there's less room, and then you make a little more room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the heart sits right on the diaphragm. So once the diaphragm is moving a little more, your heart is supported.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
And
Anna
so-
asked, what kind of breathing techniques would be recommended for children?
Honestly, for the mother to breathe.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
So true. So I'm curious, when you just notice your own breathing, then you would be able to notice where either it stops or where it's more constricted or
Yes.
what's happening. And then it would almost be, instead of telling yourself, as you said, I should breathe in deeper, whatever, it seems like, because that's what was happening with me, it seems like the body would just organically do it on its own once you're noticing.
That's exactly what you want. You want the spontaneity of your own breath. And you want the rhythm of your own breath.
Yeah, because, I think it's important to note that organically the body, it's a natural thing for the body to do. Just like when, I have a few clients that have new babies and the pediatricians are immediately trying to put them on a schedule, a sleeping schedule, a training schedule, and it just drives me crazy. I'm like, let the baby get used to their own inner rhythm. They need to sleep. They will want to sleep. They need to eat. They will want to eat, but let them do it at their own time, at their own, putting them on a schedule, I think, is the worst thing to do.
Right.
They're not being able to, you're not giving them an opportunity to listen to their own body.
Exactly. And then later in life, when you say to people, well, what do you want to do? And they, I don't know. Because you're so out of touch with what you actually want.
With organically what your body wants to do. I mean, it's natural to sleep and eat. So the baby will. When it's hungry, it will ask for food. And when it's tired, it will sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the woman who asked about the child. I feel like I may have been a little smug there. Although I did mean that. I did mean that the mother, because children imitate. But I think another thing that you can do is just have your hands on your child's ribs, and just
back in the front.
Yeah, and just kind of encourage a little bit of movement for them, because you're going to feel like they're, if they're not breathing, they're going to be like that. But and just encourage them to, like we were just doing, let the breath come in and let the breath go out, and just encourage that movement and say, oh, can you feel, one of the things I used to do, this is funny with my kids, it's funny that brings that up, is when I would hold them, and I would hold them close to my chest and just I would take sort of extra long inhales and exhales, and they would, especially my youngest daughter, Ruby, she would giggle because she could feel that I was still exhaling, and she could feel my breathing rhythm. So maybe that's a better answer for you, is really let your child feel your breathing rhythm, or help them just say, oh, can you notice, honey, here that you can let your breath out a little more? Oh, can you feel that your belly moved, and you feel that your chest moves, and just do it as a sort of fun thing to do together.
Yeah, as a game.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, we have 2 calls waiting, and we're running out of time. So can I get the callers on?
You bet.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to our first caller from area code 541. 541. I think this is Connie. Hi, Connie.
Hi, John. My question is, I know that I'm a very shallow breather, and my oxygen levels are always very low. So it seems to pose a problem when I have any kind of medical, like say surgeries, where I'll go into either an asthma attack, or I'm just not breathing well enough where they'll have to keep me instead of let me go home.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if that, could be stress related. Is there an exercise maybe I could do to help that?
Sure. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry, what's your name? Connie?
Connie, yeah.
Fun.
Okay, Connie. It can be stress related. Absolutely can be stress related, like I was saying before. Let me ask you a question, though, since I can't see you.
She could come online. I could send her a link, and she could come online if you want to see her.
That would be interesting.
I went to the other room because the TV was on.
Okay. Yeah, I can go ahead and send you an invite, Connie. And
As long as you're dressed from here up, we should be okay.
yeah.
These
If
days.
if you're willing to,
Yeah.
Connie, I'll send you a link, and you can join us on video.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. All right.
Who's going?
All right. And while we're doing that, I'm going to take another call, and then we're going to get you to come back on. Okay, Connie? I'll be communicating with you through Facebook. Okay, one sec.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Sure thing. Yeah. So let me go to our next caller while we're getting Connie on video. This is area code 530. Can we have your name, please, and where you're calling from?
It's Celeste. I am in Northern California.
Hey, Celeste.
Hello, ladies. How's everybody? And John?
Good to
Good.
hear from you.
Yeah. So, what my question is very similar to Connie's. As far back as I can remember, I breathe very shallowly, and I tend to hold my breath. So you were talking about suppressing things, is what I'm actually doing. Because I'll sometimes think, oh, I forgot to breathe.
Right.
Same thing. My oxygen levels are lower. I don't have asthma though.
Right. And this is something that you've noticed like most of your life, kind of thing?
Yeah. I just don't breathe. Yeah, I don't breathe in deeply. I'm consciously working on that. I have been in the last few years to make sure I'm breathing into my belly, but maybe I'm overcompensating.
What did you just say?
To be more conscious of it.
Tell me what you just said. I breathe into my belly.
What I just said was I try to be more conscious of it, of breathing more, because I tend to just breathe shallowly, or all of a sudden realize I haven't. I've been holding my breath.
Right. The thing that caught my attention, Celeste, was that you said, I'm trying to breathe more, and I breathe into my belly. That's what I heard you say.
Right. I try to breathe into my belly to get a full deep breath and expand my stomach.
I have something to say about that. And that is, trying to think of which way to say it. I know a lot of people teach that, but we don't breathe into our bellies. Air doesn't go into your belly. When you were in, all of us were in school, biology, and we learned where does air go?
Into the lungs.
Into your lung.
That's right. And when you pull air down into your belly, you limit the air in your lungs, and it feels like you don't have enough breath.
Wow.
And
that's very interesting.
I speak my honest experience and truth, and I speak against most of the world on this. And some of the people who I highly admire and learn from as teachers say, breathe into your belly. And every time I hear that, I cringe, because to be honest, if air ever went into your belly, you would die. Air does not go into your belly. Now, your belly responds. I'm not going to say it, don't get me wrong here. When you breathe, your diaphragm drops down, your lungs fill with air, your diaphragm drops down, and your belly expands. Yes, that is not the same thing as directing air into your belly. When you direct air into your belly, you have a shorter breath, from my experience. Now that's
interesting.
That's very interesting. So how would
talking, I'm breathing into my lungs, but my belly will rise and fall.
Yeah, that's the diaphragm, isn't it? The diaphragm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but where that's come from is where I've learned that is they said if you watch a baby breathe and you see its belly rise and fall,
it's true.
That's where.
Yes, it's true, but their back and their ribs also fill. So right now, Celeste, just have some sense of allowing the air to come into your lungs, whatever that means to you.
Okay.
And just see if that doesn't sort of gently, very delicately allow a bit more breath.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can breathe in seconds longer than breathing in what I had termed into my belly. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Betsy. I can't wait to read your book because I need this breath thing since I'm a breath holder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the lesson we just had, if you continue that, you will have breath. And as you do that, you will bump into the things that had you stop your breathing, and you sound, you can deal with that however your chosen way of dealing with things is.
Yeah, thank you so much, Betsy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
asking. Now with Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Take care. We'll see you in the after party. All right, so here's Connie. Okay, Connie, go ahead and mute yourself. 1 second. Let's go ahead and, before I bring you on, go ahead and mute your listening device, and then I'll bring you on, and you'll be live connected to us just like you were on the phone. Okay, so here we go. I'm still hearing an echo from something. Sweetie, can you turn down the or just mute your speakers, and then I will go ahead and bring you on.
Put this on. I can't
There we
hear.
go. She's doing her headphones. There we go. But we see you at least, so that's
Hi,
good.
Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Here she goes. She's plugging in so she can hear you.
Hi.
There
Hi,
she
Connie.
is. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi.
So tell me a little bit about your
Hello.
breathing.
Connie, are you still there? Oh, I think we just lost her.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm wondering if it was the same as Celeste.
What she did mention about shallow breathing.
I always breathe shallow. I always breathe very, very shallow. Anytime they put the little, reader on my finger, I'm like 93, 94. So my breathing is never where it should be. But then it poses a problem as I go into procedures, because I will either come out not breathing enough where they have to give me oxygen and keep me, or I went into asthma attacks.
Yes. So right now, what are you, when you think about your breathing, what do you notice? Or where do you think about breathing? How do you think, how do you breathe?
Can you move the router closer?
Oh, I think she's having a technical challenge hearing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can go back to auditory. I see, I can get a picture of what breathing is.
Okay. Connie, you want to go ahead and call back in? Yeah, I think her router or something isn't working properly, so we can't get in real-time communication with her.
What would you, in general, I mean, maybe she can, it's about the shallow breathing. What would be an exercise to help people who have a tendency to breathe shallow to help increase?
And I would say one of them is what I did with Celeste, is that it's not so much what you need to do, it's what you're doing is causing you to not have breath. So that's one pattern. Another pattern is, so Connie, I hope you can hear this or watch.
Yeah, she's going to call right back in and we'll get her right back on with you.
Okay, that's fine. So, or everybody can try this. Just put your hands here and just notice as you breathe, do you have any movement in your shoulders?
I do.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, so just notice that sometimes people have the pattern of holding their shoulders down because people say, hold your shoulders down and don't let your shoulders come up. So what you want to do is notice with your hands here, notice that as air comes in, it comes into your lungs. Oh, say, okay, Connie, so put your hands here.
I can't hear.
Okay. And so, and as the air comes into your lungs, notice that your lungs move because they're elastic. And your ribs sit on top of your lungs. And so as your lungs move, your ribs move. And then your shoulders sit on top of your ribs. And so as your lungs fill with air, your shoulders get to move also. And that can allow a bit of a fuller breath. Does that make sense?
So what I find so beautiful about your work, and I've witnessed it, and just the way you're describing it now, there's nothing forced about it. It's just truly awareness.
Yeah.
And that awareness kind of almost brings in the natural rhythm of the body.
Yeah.
And it'll just happen. It's so wonderful.
And it's so, one of the things that I'm really into or interested in is how the body is designed to function. It has a very specific design. Your head moves a certain way, your arms move a certain, and when you move that way, it works well. And when you don't, you're fighting, you're efforting, you're working too hard all the time, which is the breath. You can't, if you sort of like breathe into your belly and hold your shoulders down, you're just like in a vice. And you're going to have shortness of breath because you can't breathe. Because you're holding it, you're interfering, like Shirley, you just said, you're interfering with what wants to happen. And that wants to happen is always going to be there. And as soon as you sort of get out of the way or recognize that you don't have to do whatever it was to stop that this will be there for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you might feel more emotion. You might feel stuff come up. You might feel more connected spiritually or something,
Right. because that's what you might be suppressing without realizing it, is some emotion with the way that we breathe. Like you said initially, when, you know, you want to hold down an emotion when you're in the middle of, you know, either a restaurant or work or something, and so that breathing pattern, we get used to it. Yeah. So emotion might come up. Absolutely. And Jan I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it goes back to where we started with the child who, you know, like was all expanded and then got squished.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Jan had something very interesting, and I think it's all related to what we've been talking about. She has a huge problem breathing as she starts to meditate. I actually feel like I'm going to hyperventilate. It's so annoying. After I get past the initial frustration of this, I'm able to get into my meditation. And yes, I always wonder what they mean by breathing into my belly.
Me too, Jim. That I totally get that.
Yeah.
That breathing into the belly really kind of screwed me up too.
I'll tell you, I mean, when I say it, I mean, I don't sometimes, you know, honestly, I don't even say it because I think like everybody will think I'm nuts or something, you know, but it's true, you know. I mean, all you have to do is think about it. Where does air go?
Right.
It goes into your lungs. It doesn't go into your belly. And I think it started, my theory is that, you know, when people have a lot of tension here and do a lot of this, they want to get people out of that. And so they say, oh, breathe down into your belly. But it's not the solution. Right. The solution is to not do something else here. It's not to.
So we have an interesting comment here. Mellow Cello, I think is what it is, says, hello, I have a question. I was wondering if you happen to have any advice when it comes to cello and scoliosis.
I do have quite a bit. I work with musicians even at Boston University. I teach musicians also. I teach somewhat. I'm in the theater department, but I'm also in the music department. So I would say a couple of things to a cellist. One of the most important things that I've noticed over the years is that your legs don't want to squeeze the cello, because often cellists squeeze the cello with their legs to hold it. And you don't need you just need to keep it from falling over, basically. But most people use way more tension than that.
Oh, so that might be stopping the fluidity.
Exactly. That's one piece. Another piece is that as I'll play my cello here. As you're playing, that be careful not to, again, do too much of that. Again, when you do this, you put more pressure down on your legs. And so, again, here, let the chair support you so that you have a little bit of length in your spine, and then your arms come out more evenly to play, instead of most cellists go something like that, which gives that scoliosis.
Wow.
So instead, have your legs, let your back lengthen up, arms come out here, and then yum, ba, 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 da, da. There we go. That's my cello playing.
Wow, bravo.
But that is two seemingly simple movements to be aware of that I think would make a huge difference in how someone would play.
It's true.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and I wish that, you know, maybe another time and place, but, well, Shirley, you've seen it, that somebody would play like she was saying she played mellow cello, and then we did this, and then we heard her play again. You would hear a totally different sound.
A totally different sound. Yeah, I've seen it when you've done that workshop. Yeah. And what is the workshop called, just for our listeners?
We used to call it Trauma and the Performing Artist, and then we renamed it Trauma in the Public Eye. So anybody who gets up in front of people and speaks, or actually you don't even need anybody who speaks to anybody can have that like initial like
you know, and just to, because I know we've gone over, but just to really kind of conclude what you're saying or put in a nutshell, because it's the beauty of your work, is that it's not so much doing, it's noticing.
Right.
And in the noticing, the body will then do what it naturally, its own rhythm, which all our bodies have innately.
Exactly. We all have our own frequencies.
Yeah.
And again, that frequency, I'm sure, Kelly, that's the frequency you connect. That's what you connect to. Yeah.
So that's such a great way of putting it, because we've always said there's, you know, the two connect, and so there's the frequency coming from out and the frequency that we have on our own bodies that's so innate. And what you're suggesting is to just start by noticing, not by doing, like breathing into your belly. Just notice how you're breathing in the first place.
Right.
And in that noticing, it slows everything down, and then the rhythm can show up on its own.
And then once that change happens, then your thinking is, everything's just a little bit different.
Yeah. I mean, Betsy, I love your work. Thank you so much.
Extraordinary. Thank you so much. My gosh.
Thank you for being with us tonight. It was really special.
Yeah, for me too, to share with, you know, your wisdom in both realms. You know, it's like you're in this realm and you're in that realm, and I'm like in the.
You're a beautiful balance.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
you really are.
Perfect.
So people, you know, I encourage all of our listeners to pick up the book Humanual. It is such an important reference book to have, to read, and to really learn about yourself and reach your full potential on so many different levels.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shirley, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure.
John.
Betsy and
John, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, and just to remind some folks, we have our webinar coming up, and that is Bad Mothers, Am I My Mother? And that is Thursday, August 22nd. It's going to be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and you can get tickets at bothsidesnowtv.com on our events page there. So check that out. And also we have another one that's coming up, and that's with the wonderful Kel and James Van Prague, and that is called Are You a Starseed? And that is on August 11th at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So you can get the ticket there at vanprague.com for that one. Okay.
Wow, very exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And be sure to get Betsy's book. We've had it up throughout the night. It's Humanual, and the book is available at humanual.com. That is HUMANUAL.com, and all the details that you need are there to purchase it, I think, on Amazon and wherever books are sold, right, Betsy?
Mostly Amazon, yeah.
Okay. All right, great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Betsy. Love that you were with us.
You both.
Yeah. And thank you all for listening. And we are off next Monday, correct?
We are.
Kelly, because you have your lovely daughter and son-in-law and grandkids, and
we have a week vacation.
Oh,
so that's exciting.
Happy.
So we will see everyone in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sounds great. All right. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world.